The top 10 most asked questions for authors. Where do you get your ideas? Sometimes I ask myself that question. Believe it or not, every once in a while they just pop into my head. What is your writing process like? I sit down at my computer, I stare at the screen, I pour myself a coffee, take a drink, stare at the screen, burst into tears wondering why I am doing this to myself, pull myself together, make another cup of coffee, and I just start writing. I always liked storytelling. I always liked books. I always wanted to try and tell a story. So I think somehow or other I always wanted to be a writer. Which character is most or least like me? I suppose I'm in a little bit of all of them. I have my idealized version of what I want to be, so I know that one of my characters is definitely like that. But I know there's an awful lot of me in some of the other characters that maybe aren't that great, because, when you're writing about somebody, you're supposed to write about what you know. Some of these people were not that fantastic, and so that means there's some of that in me too. So I'd say a little bit of all of them, both. Just do it. Yes, you have to sit down. You have to kind of come up with a general outline of a story. You have to have an idea of where you're starting out on an adventure. And I remember my old guidance counselor saying, if you don't know where you're going, chances are you're going to end up someplace else. Don't get caught up in the rabbit hole of, this is what you need to do, X, Y, Z. Just do it. Go back and fix it later if you have to. Just do it. The first draft is for you. Just do it. The more you focus on, I can't do this, I'm stuck, you're reinforcing the obstacle. Go do something else. Watch TV. Do all those chores that you have been avoiding while you're sitting here trying to type. Go for a walk. Play with the dogs. Read a book. Watch a movie. Anything to get your mind off of the fact that I don't know what to do. I don't know what to write. I'm blocked. Stop feeding it. It will disappear on its own. Just do it. With the exception of one history book, all of my characters are works of fiction. Any resemblance to actual people, living or dead, may or may not be entirely coincidental. In which case, names have been changed to protect those who should have known better. I think one day I just decided I want to write something, and this is what I want to write. I sat down and I started, and I just kept going till I was done. And that turned out pretty good. So I said, let's do it again. That's what I've been doing ever since. My favorite authors: Ellis Peters, Stephen King, Agatha Christie, Bruce Catton, Dorothy Canfield Fisher, Robert Frost, Robert Dugoni, and I could go on and on and on. Only been a few occasions where I've met somebody that, oh dear God, this makes me wish I was illiterate. Those have been very few. In fact, one was so bad and the book was so nondescript that I don't even remember who wrote it. The other one, they made his work into a couple of miniseries back in the 80s. It didn't. I tried watching them. It was just as much of an ordeal as reading them. Criticism you're always going to get, because everybody thinks they are an expert about everybody else's stuff except their own. Bad reviews, take it in the spirit it's given. If they're just saying everything that's wrong and don't bother to point out anything that you did right, and I've had those situations. I was reminded of an old saying back in Vermont: never get upset when you get kicked by a jackass. Remember from whence it came. Critic, a reviewer, they're going to point out the weaknesses, not as a judgment, but as an indicator of where you need to focus a little bit more attention. They will talk about the things that you've done right as an example of this is what you are capable of. My very first review of my very first novel, they said it was so great up until the last 3 chapters and the ending, which felt so rushed, which really was a disappointment, because this story and this book had so much promise, and we were looking forward to it, and started out great and fumbled at the end. I thought it was great. I got into a snort, and one thing led to another, and then I sat and I realized I could probably start doubting a little bit more of my own infallibility. Hear the constructive criticisms, because that's what it's supposed to be. Constructive. This is what you've got. There are a lot of critics and reviewers out there that do like to be able to just make people nervous and sweat and, oh my God, are they going to say something bad about me? You want to know something? You can't say anything worse about me than I have said about myself for the past 59 years, so just don't even worry about making me sweat. Take it all as it comes, just like you would with everybody else. And remember, those who can do, those who can't teach, and those who can't do either criticize. Here are the top 10 questions I usually get asked as an author, but you can put yours in the comments below and I will try and get to them.